Mr. Kumar, I have a question based on your presentation, which is that when you talk about charging infrastructure, is there any concept, is there any thought being given to having a hybrid charging station with your typical pump where you can fill up fuel for petrol and diesel? Is that compatible? Is that in the white paper on regulations?
See, when regulatory thought started, I'm sure that Dr. Roy is more qualified to respond on it that the way it was there. However, from my understanding, what I can share, they first thought up in Delhi where to provide it. The cost, because it was not utility-led. See, right now, there is an ecosystem which is established. Indian Oil or Bharat Petroleum or whatever you talk about, Hindustan Petroleum, they had their ecosystem, they had a distributor system and they used to take land, as per location, entire was established. Wherein in this charging system, they were not the main player. Why? Because it is electricity department, or maybe the one which provides electricity. So the challenge was where to start the first. So they came out with a solution that wherever that easily visible locations are there, that is Delhi Metro stations, bus stands. So they started from there. Because if you go to existing petrol pumps, the challenge would be that they tried with fuel and CNG. They have not come out in the same location along with the electric charging points. What may happen if you do that, you may have separate queues for all this, and that way they have not yet figured out. But it is there on the anvil that how to utilize that existing facility, because if you see that so much of shifting may take place, it may so happen that the frequency of refueling need on the existing petrol pump will come down. And as a result, they would like to utilize their space for doing this hybrid charging.
The parking lots could be one of the areas where such infra can be set up, because cars are parked for a longer duration of time. At the petrol pump, you cannot have 1 hour or half an hour halt. So maybe parking lots could be a better solution for this.
Fast charging is 15 minutes based on this 11 kV, 33 kV line that you just spoke about, Mr. Kumar,
No,
or is it less than that? Because 15 minutes to charge does not make a typical petrol diesel pump viable, as you just put it.
It has not gone below 15 minutes. In fact, normal charging takes still 4 to 6 hours. And the new one, that almost 300 kilowatt one, will charge in 15 minutes. And that's what I'm telling, that new technological development which is taking place, you may still find out new developments going to come on it. So as of now, what is established, as per that, as Avinash has right now conveyed, you need a separate ecosystem right now with the present technology, rather than using the existing petrol pumps.
May I add a small observation
Please.
on this,
Yeah.
since you mentioned this. About a few months ago, I happened to travel on an interstate e-bus. So very interestingly, they have juxtaposed it with the stoppage that's there. So there's a duration of like a 5-hour travel. So at about 2.5 hours, they stop like for a rest and for all the utilities, like for the passengers to eat and stuff like that. During that period, in that same premises itself, there was an e-charging point. So there was this bus going in that direction and that direction. So there were 2 points for them. And that is where for about half an hour the charging happened. So which was utilizing that stop time, which was already a fixed part of the route duration or the route planning the way it was, which I found was very efficient in the way they managed it. At least they can do it on a highway, I presume.
In fact, I was at an event yesterday. What they're trying to do at the petrol pumps is battery swapping. So that's going to be a far more effective way, because it's not time consuming thing. In a minute you can do it.
And we can also, for the charging itself with the cars and also designing of the cars, of some muddies that don't have a station and all. So in a highway we don't have a station. So what does have been a problem? So that might be some option also. Should be in car itself. Designing of new cars.
I think the conception of my question came in terms of land use, because just like, electric vehicle viability, along with that, the availability of land is also an issue. So when you talk about infrastructure, I think Mr. Kumar spoke about.
Petrols, and we can replace it. If has been vehicles have been replaced with petrol, diesel, then we can stop them and we can replace with EV with that infrastructure itself. Yeah, that's the way.
Mr. Kumar, yes, sir, you want to make an observation?
You know, as a country which isn't really one of the developed countries in the world, with poverty being one of the prime examples, the idea of mobility of electric vehicles is multidimensional. One of the things would be no question of where autos park, where motorbikes park, where cars park, where buses park, etc. As far as residences are concerned, today, if you go to any one of the communities and say, we'd like to have a charging station, the tendency is to refuse. Can we please see whether there's a possibility of making it mandatory that if there is a member in a society who wants charging facilities where he's got a reserved parking spot, it has to be taken up by the association in the correct fashion.
Mr. Kumar, would you say that charging infrastructure for public transport is a more feasible option as compared to private ownership of EV vehicles?
See, interestingly, globally, whenever people talk about EV facilitation, means policy development, they always talk about public charging facility. They never talk about semi-public or private. And that ratio is being defined. What is the requirement? If you look to India, it is 133 EVs per charging point. And what is that globally, what people are looking forward to? Almost 25 to 30 is what people are talking about is required. From that point of view, I was just taking a look, what is the growth required in this public facility itself? We are 133, to coming down to 33, maybe 4 times growth. Added to it, what is that electric vehicle growth in last 1 year is 66%. 66 multiplied by 4, that means 245% growth of charging infrastructure growth which is required. Maybe it will taper down, but it will still remain in double digits. So for setting up, enterprising and facilitation, policy making, incentivizing, it is going to be really very, very fast track.
So there's always the demand that government, yes sir.
One other small question is, because we're such a poor country, when you have charging stations which are in the public space, there's no accountability. We've been reading in the newspapers that existing charging stations in Delhi have been vandalized or are being used for people to sleep at night because it's cold. I think the answer definitely has to be ownership. And if it's ownership, I think the idea of public charging, especially in densely populated cities like ours, where parking is again a problem, it must go back to private ownership.
So battery swapping is certainly a solution in that hybrid model that we tried to speak about, Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, battery swapping is being talked of, but the real issue is, if you look to the ecosystem wise, the back-end logistics is required. Which type of battery, how many numbers, how do you know? That research is not yet established. So while it, academically it is looking to be a solution, but it is not. The challenge is, as the technology is developing and the standardization is not that much, the nature and the type of battery of that configuration to be available at the location where you need it is an issue which is not. Answering to sir your point, I really agree. I really agree that ownership, that it started that if you talk about ownership, then feasibility has to be established, otherwise people will not own it. And when you are trying to encourage, everywhere the feasibility is not established. Typically people talk about 1.5 lakh it started, when fast charging you talk about multiple points, talk about people went about 30 lakh, 40 lakh setting up one charging point. Now how much you can earn? If it is properly utilized, 3 to 4 lakhs per month you can earn revenue from it. So it can definitely be made feasible. But the issue is, government is intended to have, suppose your vehicle needs charging at a remote area to facilitate there. but the feasibility of that may not be as established. So next comes the ownership there. I've seen some places in Noida, though the charging point is there is no ownership, you can go and charge, but somebody has come and just parked the vehicle and gone. So other cannot come and charge their vehicle because the charging point is occupied by somebody else. So without somebody takes the ownership, apart from that nuisance which is being created by vandalizing, even for allowing that place to be available, no, somebody should look into it. Otherwise, just people will, because there is a parking problem in the country.
Can I ask?
Yes, sir, please, Wayne.
Please, sir.
Right.
In case one would like to have a charging point in one's own house, how much would that cost? Any idea?
See, it again depends upon the type of it will be coming less. Now, it will less than lakh.
Yeah, so this is exactly the point which I wanted to make. I'll just take it.
Please, sir.
What are we talking about when we talk about charging points? Because we all have cars which we park at home. If we don't have space within our plot, then we park it in front of our plot. So just now Pranay has confirmed that when you can afford to have a car costing, let's say, on an average 10 lakhs of rupees, so maybe 80,000, 90,000, a lakh of rupees, all you need is a charging point at home. You charge your car overnight. You don't need overnight, you need only 15 minutes if it's an advanced technology, but if it's a little dated technology, maybe a couple of hours. And then how much are you going to travel? You go to your office, you go for shopping, you come back. So you don't really need so many charging points across the city as far as personal cars are concerned. Then what do you need charging points for? You need charging points for because people are coming from other cities into the city, so there's a floating population who come by car. They're probably checking into some hotels or wherever, so there will be some points there also. Then the question of the buses. There are I think about 100 bus depots in the city of Delhi. So in all these bus depots, earlier you were having diesel filling or CNG filling. So now you will have charging points there where the buses will get charged. So then who else has to charge? Then all these Ola cabs and Uber and all these other cab guys who are floating around the city. They are the people who really need those charging points. So I think we need to break down this whole concept of who is actually going to need those charging points. And if we do that, then I think the problem is not as big or as insurmountable as it appears to be. I think it can be easily taken care of.
Sir,
I don't know what is your view on this.
sir, there is a challenge here. When you have made an assumption that, okay, sub then a lakh, you can set it up. You have an inherent assumption that your transformer doesn't need any upgradation. What you have got the spare capacity, you may draw a line and you may get it dedicated for you. However, just imagine, nowadays most of people are staying in flats, apartments. The moment you say that 20% of the apartment people want to have EV facility, and the moment you add their total electrical power connected load, you will realize that you may have to upgrade the transformer, you may have to upgrade other things. So the moment you add these, the cost goes up, and then individual solution is not possible. What you are talking about is people are having individual bungalows or their house. Even if they are parking outside, they can have their own dedicated one. In apartment, you cannot have a place where you can say, this will be my electric point. I am staying in an apartment, one person invested money, got his installation done at that place, but it is free parking. So otherwise, other guys come and park at his place. He is not able to charge from his own point. Rather than just responding to only golf course, I must tell, because in connection of the discussion topic, short haul I wanted to tell, and then I'll come back to it. What is happening, we all know that, I'll just draw example from what Tata Motors did and bringing the same analogy to handling that short haul problem. Tata, they used to have big vehicles, and they came out with Tata Ace Magic. Because each bigger vehicle, if they bring material to a particular place, how many small vehicles are required to evacuate? Now, when we talk about transport, even metro stations, when we already know that so many passengers are coming out and they will be going out, egress is known. How many, if you talk about even, I do not have immediate solution other than ERIC, which is being plying today, to evacuate those people. So if you know that e-rick is required, how many e-rick is required and where they will be parking so that they are not obstructing the main pedestrian, it can definitely be planned. Added with what Shanghai experienced, what Dr. Rao said, rather than allowing all people to come to one point, if you separate them at their level only, earlier Pagati Maidan, now it is called Supreme Court Metro Station. If you come out, you are already going to different routes. It's not that only one place you are coming out. So that means that can also be added to it. And so short haul problem can definitely be solved. If you are not solving the volume problems, coming to only golf course where only few will go will not solve that real resilience issue. That is a matter of, you can say that your frustration that you would like to limit to at least this one I will be doing it properly.
The reason I mentioned the golf course is because Sir is with the Dean of School of Planning and Architecture. The whole premises, the whole area is properly planned, which is why it's easier to move and have that kind of, but you don't have that same privilege or benefit in the city. And how does one actually overcome that? I think that is what we're trying to get at, because you have legacy infrastructure. How do you remove that with something new?
While that can definitely plan and handled, I still like to focus on the population studies, because we come from consulting background, everything can be researched, every study can be made, every planning can be made by this. India is very less researched country. The type of population what we have, I'm just quoting yesterday's news, entire France had only 9 lakh babies last year, and they're thinking about shrinking population. So for them, they can find solution easily. For us, when we add more than 1 crore every year, naturally we have to think about volume solution, and that has to solve what we are talking about sort of. And that needs to be researched, it has to be integrated with the planning, and we got to find out solution. We cannot just wish it away. We cannot leave it to government. Government can't do this research. When solution, this e-rick which is coming is a private guy and he knows where to pick up his passenger from. And if you guide them to be parking at a place where you know that what is the volume to come in it, probably it has to join hands together. Government by just making policy, policy and putting one police there will not solve the problem, because we all know that what happens finally.